Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing the possibility of a bullish breakout coming to Bitcoin here in the next couple of days, and a return to $14,000 in the month of October. Bitcoin once again finds itself approaching an important decision point. Whether or not it breaks to the upside or breaks to the downside is more than likely going to be decided in the next week. And guys, there's a pretty decent chance that Bitcoin actually breaks to the bullish side. We're going to be looking at the technicals, we're going to be looking at the fundamentals, and we're going to be trying to come to the bottom of whether or not Bitcoin can actually return to $14,000 by the end of October. We're also going to be discussing a short little news article having to do with the football team, or where I come from, the soccer team, Watford FC. As we can see, they are now sporting the Bitcoin logo on their jersey. Awesome marketing for Bitcoin. We'll be discussing that later. And I also want to touch on this story talking about how Cubans are starting to use Bitcoin to get around trade embargoes that have been placed on the country for the last several decades. Guys, we're going to be diving into all of that and more in today's video, so if you do enjoy today's video, make sure you smash that like button down below. And also, guys, remember that the sale on CT2A is still running. There's a link in the description and a $40 off coupon code if you are interested. More on that at the end of the video. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into the technical analysis. The first thing I want to talk about is this uptrend of support that we discussed in yesterday's video. If you'd like, that video is the most recent video uploaded on the channel, and we were talking about this uptrend of support that has been impacting Bitcoin price action for several years. And in fact, someone pointed out to me in the comments, or actually many of you pointed out in the comments, that this trend line actually extends much farther into the past, and it actually starts showing levels of support and resistance as far back as 2015. But this uptrend of support is a really interesting one because it's not just an uptrend of support, guys. It's also kind of a mean of Bitcoin. As you can see, Bitcoin likes to fluctuate from being below this trend line to above this trend line where it got overextended, back to being below this trend line where it was oversold, and now we're getting back up above it here in the last several months. And I think a big part of the slowdown that we've been seeing here in the last couple of months, ever since the end of June, has basically just been Bitcoin consolidating and deciding whether or not it actually wants to continue this uptrend of this new bull market and rally even higher up towards $20,000. And guys, quite frankly, when we get away from the zone of resistance around this trend line right here, and we manage to get fully away from it and break fully away from it as we did over here in November, Bitcoin's probably going to take off like a rocket ship. And when it does that, guys, if it does that, then a $14,000 Bitcoin within, say, 45 days of now is very possible, considering it's not actually that far away. So with that said, let's look at some technicals here, guys. The first thing I want to show you would be the 20 exponential moving average on the daily chart. As you can see, yesterday we broke bullish above it, and right now we're coming down to test it as support. Hopefully tonight when we close this candlestick, Bitcoin has actually garnered support on top of the 20 EMA, and that allows us to push a little bit higher. Furthermore, even though Bitcoin has started to converge bearish on itself, we are seeing that Bitcoin is still technically bullish. It has not crossed bearish yet, and we are moving up towards the zero level on the histogram. So those are slightly bullish things, even though they could definitely be a lot better. And as far as the VPVR is concerned, guys, something really interesting shows up if we zoom in here. What we're going to find is that Bitcoin is actually testing a major level of resistance on the VPVR if we only take into account price action that has been important here on this consolidation pattern that Bitcoin currently finds itself in. As we can see, there's a very major level of resistance at $10,420. Let's get some 420 jokes in the comment section. But Bitcoin yesterday started testing this as the level of resistance that we see right before us at $10,400 and change. And this is important, guys, because if we look at our consolidation pattern here, Bitcoin is testing some of the most powerful resistance right now. And if Bitcoin can get through that and it can start trending to the upside and in fact come down and test this downtrend of resistance, then there's a much higher chance that Bitcoin would be able to break through it because Bitcoin's already through all of the resistance, which is actually mainly inside the body of the triangle pattern. It's not even really at the downtrend. With that said, also, guys, Bitcoin is currently sitting here testing two levels of resistance. We're testing the 50 simple moving average, the red line up here, and we're testing the 100 simple moving average, the gray line down here. What all of this really means, guys, is that Bitcoin is at a decision point right now. We're trading sideways. The trend is sideways. In a sideways trend, it's hard to start making a lot of bullish or bearish predictions too early when you don't have concrete technical analysis to back it up. Right now, we do see that there's a lot of kind of neutral, slightly bullish technical analysis, and we also see this uptrend of support right here that Tess pointed out to me a couple days ago is currently holding, and Bitcoin has not broken bearish below that, which means we're on the bullish side of it, that being the upper side of it, of course. So what that means, guys, is since we're trading sideways, since a lot of the technical indicators are relatively neutral and slightly bullish, what you want to do in this situation is you want to wait for a breakout, wait for the confirmation of the breakout, and then start trading from there. Since we're not in a well-defined uptrend or in a well-defined downtrend, we're in more of a well-defined boring trend. Oftentimes, unless you're doing something on a shorter term time frame where a trend will be more pronounced, it's easier and much safer to wait for a breakout. So what I'm doing right now is I'm waiting for a breakout, whether Bitcoin breaks to the upside or the downside here. I'm prepared for that, and that's what you guys need to be as well. What I would encourage you guys to do is go and make a plan for a Bitcoin breakout, where your entry is going to be, what your stop loss will look like, what your price target's going to look like, and then also have a plan for if Bitcoin breaks to the downside, because both are somewhat equally likely right now, although I'm definitely leaning bullish. With all that said, let's talk about whether or not a $14,000 Bitcoin in October is possible. Yes, absolutely it's possible. If Bitcoin breaks out here, right up here is about where it needs to go to. This is the kind of trend, this is the kind of angle, the degree of the trend that we need to see for Bitcoin to reach $14,000 by the end of the month of October. And guys, if Bitcoin gets a breakout, I want you to understand it's going to be huge. We are in a textbook consolidation, and we're in a textbook consolidation triangle pattern bullish pennant with a bull market running into it and a bull market probably going to be running out of it, assuming we get a bullish breakout. Volume has been declining, volatility has been falling off, retail interest has been dropping off, which is something you often see happen during longer term pennants. That's a trend that you can notice with the overall market and the volatility, but also with things like the viewership on this channel. There's not as many people going on YouTube and searching Bitcoin. All of those are prime conditions for a breakout, be it bullish or bearish, but because of the things we discussed earlier, I think it's slightly more likely we're going to break to the upside. And if we do, Bitcoin is going to be breaking a 3-month-old triangle pattern. And as you guys know, the bigger the triangle pattern, typically the bigger the breakout, the lower the volume when you're running into the breakout, typically the more volume you're going to see during the breakout. So I think it's very possible that when Bitcoin does break bullish here, again, if it breaks bullish here, maybe this coincides with the launch of Backed or something, Bitcoin could easily rally $1,000, $2,000 and be up at like $12,000 very quickly. I've seen this kind of thing happen a lot in Bitcoin, and then slowly grind its way up to $14,000 from there, maybe on into the end of October, beginning of November. Now that's just one scenario, guys, and many could play out, but I think that's one of the more likely ones, that Bitcoin tests a downtrend of resistance, our red one right here, and eventually does break it over the next 2 weeks or so, and then we start seeing an uptrend moving on into October. Tell me in the comment section down below what your take on that is. But guys, I want to go ahead and move on to some news briefly. A Premier League soccer team, yes, I'm going to say soccer because I'm from the States and I'm cultured, will sport Bitcoin logo on jersey. As part of a brand partnership with sportsbet.io, Watford FC, a Premier League soccer team or football team, depending on where you live, will brand the Bitcoin logo on the sleeves of players' jerseys. And as I showed you earlier on in the video, that is most certainly true. We got a couple of tough guys over here sporting the Bitcoin logo. They look like they want to beat the snot out of me. But even if they do want to beat the snot out of me, then they do still support Bitcoin, and they are still sporting Bitcoin while they're playing their sport of choice. So I'm very happy about that. And also, this guy over here looks like he has a tattoo of Satoshi Nakamoto on his arm. I don't know who that is, but it kind of looks like him. Anyway, moving on, I just thought that was a cool story for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and dive into this one briefly, and then we're going to wrap the video up. Cubans are turning to Bitcoin to access the global economy. As you guys may or may not know, Cuba got involved in something called the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Bay of Pigs. In fact, they didn't really get involved with it. They kind of got dragged into it by two global superpowers with nuclear weapons. They were trying to annihilate each other. That's neither here nor there, though. The point is the United States laid some pretty major trade embargoes on Cuba decades ago that are still in effect. And in essence, Cuba is basically just the hermit kingdom that North Korea seems to be modeling itself after, except Cuba just sits down there and smokes cigars and doesn't try to nuke people all the time. Anyway, they've had some economic problems ever since they got embargoed by the global superpower that is the United States of America. And because of that, they've had to turn to some pretty creative ways of making things work. As you guys have probably seen in movies that depict Cuba, they still drive around in like 50s era cars because they can't import any cars, and Cuba's not a big enough country to have its own car manufacturing. And a similar thing is true for most areas of the country. There's just not a whole lot of trade going on, so there's not a whole lot of non-communist imports coming into the country, which means that the entire economy is kind of built on reusing and makeshifting parts that are needed. And where cryptocurrency is coming into this is that residents of the island, now that they're starting to get access to the internet, wow, they're getting access to the internet. I'm so sorry for you guys that live in Cuba. They're starting to work with Bitcoin, and they're starting to work with cryptocurrencies. Alex Sobrino, 33, the founder of Telegram channel Cuba Crypto, estimated that roughly 1,000 Cubans were using cryptocurrencies to top up our cell phones to make online purchases, and there are even people reserving hotel rooms with crypto. Guys, I just find this stuff so interesting. This is what Bitcoin was really designed to do. I mean, guys, seriously, this is how Bitcoin is going to end up taking over the global financial industry, because it is a currency that is not biased. It's not a currency that's prejudiced. It is completely and totally colorblind, race blind, ethnicity blind, nationality blind. It doesn't care. All it cares about is that people are able to use it wherever there's an internet connection. That's the only thing that you have to use Bitcoin is an internet connection. And what that means is that it's helping a lot of disenfranchised people that have no way to use the traditional banking system, either because they don't have the money, or they don't have a bank that they can even open in their country, or because they live in a communist utopia, quote unquote, where they can't even get basic access for repairs to everyday items. Guys, stuff like this in Cuba, in Venezuela, and maybe even North Korea one day, in China, in all these different countries in Africa, this is what Bitcoin was designed to do. It was designed to help not only people in the first world who are disenfranchised with our very well-functioning political systems and economic systems when you compare it to places like Cuba or Africa, it was also designed to help people that have nowhere else to turn. I love reading stuff like this, and that makes me very happy. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Before we go, I do want to remind you of the sale we're running on the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, guys. For a limited time only, you're going to be getting access to a $40 off coupon code that will allow you to get into CT2A for only $159. Now, I know I say only and $159 in the same sentence, and you probably think I'm crazy, but the reason that I say only is because courses that have this much content in this space normally run for over $1,000, and a lot of times they don't even have quite as much content as we have here. Currently in CT2A, there are 34 videos and counting. We're always revamping videos, adding new videos, and over 10 hours of content where you are learning everything you need to know about technical analysis, like the very basics of how to set up a TradingView account, all the way to much more advanced concepts that you're going to need to know if you want to be profitable in these markets, like risk and reward, how everything in this market is really a game of statistics and probabilities. There's no certainties in this market. Mass psychology, it's really important that you understand how the mass psychology of this market works and how it moves this market. Market structure, why that's so important, what happens when it breaks, how it's formed. Gut feeling, this right down here, people get confused when I say gut feeling in this. I'm not talking about emotion, I'm talking about your instinct, guys. When you have an artificial intelligence and that artificial intelligence is trying to learn something, what you do is you feed it 10,000 data sets and you tell it what's right and wrong, and then from that data it develops an instinct, it develops an intelligence. You can do the same thing. That's what I teach you to do in this video. Guys, it's really important that you have an education in cryptocurrency. I mean, people go to school for becoming a doctor, people go to school to become an economist, people go to school to become a teacher, people go to school to become XYZ, people go to school to become just about anything that requires even a decent amount of training. Well, wouldn't you guys agree that Bitcoin is a very complicated topic and something that requires a lot of learning to do? You can go and learn all of this stuff on your own in the same way that someone can learn to become a teacher on their own, but it's going to take a lot more time, and you're just simply not going to be as good at it because you didn't follow a curriculum to make sure you know absolutely everything. I studied astrophysics quite a lot in middle school, and to be honest, yeah, I probably could carry a conversation with an astrophysicist, but that doesn't mean that I know all of the equations. That doesn't mean that I know the inner workings of literally everything, because I didn't learn that in school. I only learned the surface level stuff. It's important that you not only learn the interesting stuff that makes a good documentary or fits well into a YouTube video, you also need to learn the things that don't fit well into a YouTube video and are sometimes tedious to learn because they are nevertheless important. So guys, if you want to kickstart your career in cryptocurrency technical analysis and you want to learn how to trade in these markets, I highly encourage you to check us out at the link in the description down below. There's a 14-day money-back refund guarantee. If you don't like the product, you can shoot me an email and we'll get that set up for you. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy today's video, let us know in the comment section down below, and make sure to drop a like on this video. It really does help out the channel when you do that. It helps us get ranked in the YouTube algorithm so that we can spread the gospel of Bitcoin to more people far and wide. But anyway, guys, like I said, that is going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.